I, 28-year-old female, have been able to get into the housing market in a good area, in a big apartment. My brother, 36-year-old male, is still living with my parents and is getting kicked out in 3 months. Rent anywhere in my city is $400 or more per week. I feel sorry for my brother, who has been in and out of a job for the last 8 months. And prior to that was jobless for 2 years due to moving to a new job for burnout reasons. But then left his new job within 2 weeks due to bullying and toxicity. He had difficulty finding a job within those 2 years. He also had his car taken away because he has a lot of debt. But I don't want to live with him anymore, and I cannot trust him as a tenant. Here's why. In those 2 years, he was getting government subsidy, but my mum was shocked, heartbroken, and infuriated that she had found him to have stolen $37,000 from her, spending it on drugs, expensive shoes, and electronics, not even using it to pay off his debt. It took a while for us to trust him again, but even so, I helped him out, buying him a new phone when his broke, paying for his gym sessions every week, buying him food, and helping to pay some bills. He now has a job that pays a good amount, but he doesn't prioritize his spending on his bills and debt. He instead buys takeout, expensive shoes, and miscellaneous want items. He is terrible with money. He has stolen from me and my mum, even when earning $900 per week. Plus, he does not respect anyone's belongings at all. He's broken the bathroom light, sink plug that was built in, bathroom drain cover, my car dash cam. He has used, without permission, my hair and face products, which I have told him not to use because they are expensive and hard to get. He has rifled through my work bag and my room to steal from me. We both have ADHD and both use dexamphetamine, but he uses a higher dose than I do. And it was this time that he was trying to steal my medication. He tried to lie about it when I confronted him, but at that time my parents were on holiday, so it could only have been him. Thankfully, I store my medication in a safe. I have tried talking to him, like my therapist suggested, but it is apparent he just does not care. He even said, "I don't care," when I told him not to touch my mum's face products while they were away. He also refuses to see a therapist because he doesn't believe they help. I cannot live with him as I'm afraid my stuff will be stolen and my belongings in my house broken. He has not looked at anywhere to rent. I don't know if he expects our parents to let him stay or that I will support him. He may be without a place to live in 3 months. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, what the frick. Your brother is nearly 40 years old, and I had to read back up to check the age because I thought he was 17 or something. Not the idiot at all. Do not let him come and live with you at all. He's your parents' problem to deal with, or quite frankly, he could grow the frick up and sort himself out. Repeat, do not let him come and live with you. If he has not looked anywhere to rent and is not saving his money, then that's a him problem. Tough. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your brother is a bum, drug-addled bum, and you would be putting hell on yourself to allow him to live with you. Not only will he not pay his bills, but he is an addict that will bleed you dry. Sorry to say, but he belongs in the streets so as not to screw up anyone else's home. As far as talking to him, that is a waste. He's never going to change until he hits rock bottom or dies. Let him hit rock bottom. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a busy couple of weeks and I've got some updates for you. So after I shared my story, things took a turn. My brother, let's call him Jake, actually lost his job again. It was a shock to everyone, especially since he'd been doing well there, or so we thought. Turns out he'd been showing up late and sometimes not at all. His boss had enough and let him go. This was a huge blow, because now, with no income, the pressure was on for him to find a place to live. I was already stressed out about the whole situation, but then I found out something that made my blood boil. Jake had been borrowing money from our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. She's a sweet lady who's always been kind to us, and he took advantage of that. He spun her a sob story about needing money for a new job interview outfit, and she lent him a few $100s. I only found out because she mentioned it to me in passing, thinking I knew. I was furious. I confronted Jake about it, and he just shrugged it off like it was nothing. He said he'd pay her back eventually, but I knew his track record with money. I ended up paying Mrs. Henderson back myself because I couldn't stand the thought of her being out of pocket because of Jake. But here's where things get even more complicated. Jake started coming around to my apartment more often, saying he needed a place to crash while he looked for a job. I was hesitant, but I let him stay on the couch for a few nights. I made it clear that this was temporary and he had to respect my space. One night, I came home late from work to find Jake and a girl I'd never seen before in my living room. They were clearly, well, let's just say they were getting very cozy. I was shocked and angry. Not only had he brought a stranger into my home without asking, but they were also using my new couch as their personal playground. I kicked the girl out and had a huge argument with Jake. He didn't see the problem with what he'd done and accused me of being uptight. I told him he had to leave, but he begged for another chance. He said he had nowhere else to go and promised to respect my rules. Against my better judgment, I agreed, but only because I remembered how our parents had always taught us to look out for each other. The next day, I came home to find my apartment in a state. Jake had tried to cook and burned a pot, leaving a mess in the kitchen. He'd also managed to break my coffee table somehow. I was at my wits' end. I told him he had to leave for good this time. He packed his things and left without a word. I thought that was the end of it, but then I got a call from my parents. They were upset because Jake had shown up at their place, saying I'd kicked him out for no reason. They didn't know the full story, and Jake had twisted things to make me look bad. I had to explain everything to them, and thankfully, they understood. Now, here's the bittersweet part. Jake actually found a place to live. He's renting a room in a house with a few other people. It's not ideal, but it's something. He's also started looking for a new job, though I'm not holding my breath on that one. I feel a mix of relief and sadness. I'm glad he's not my responsibility anymore, but I can't help but worry about him. He's my brother after all. I hope he gets his act together, but I've learned that I can't fix his problems for him. He has to want to change, and I'm not sure he's there yet. In-laws own the house we live in and treat me like a maid, but my husband gets in a car accident and I become the breadwinner. Now they complain I don't cook and clean for them. I ask my husband to consider moving out and buying a mobile home. Oh boy. When I met my husband, he lived between his parents and his sister in a home that his parents owned. Before we got married, his mother was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and his father had several heart attacks, so we decided to continue living there to help his parents out. I was a stay-at-home mom who took care of the needs of both households while he worked. There is an extra bedroom in our home that my in-law use for storage, and I have never even been allowed in there. I took this to mean that they don't trust me, and in the beginning, it really didn't even matter. For tax purposes, they wanted to put the home we live in into my husband's name, which I had no problems with. However, they decided to tell him that it wouldn't really be his until they pass, and made him sign the back of the deed like he's selling it, then took it back. They do things to him like this all the time and treat him like he is an irresponsible teenager, even though we have been paying the land and home taxes since we moved in. Eventually, his mother went into remission, our child went to school, and I found a career. Several years later, my husband was in a car wreck that devastated our lives and changed the family dynamic. He was confined to a wheelchair, and I became the sole breadwinner. Now, his parents have started to complain to him about me. They are mad that I stopped cooking and cleaning for them. I work 12-hour shifts, sometimes 6 days a week, and barely have time to breathe and take care of my own. One day, I stood up for myself and asked why they couldn't get their youngest, who has no job, to do it. They informed me that it was my job because I live here rent-free. A few years back, my husband and I bought a plot of land to eventually build a house of our own. After a recent argument with his parents over them trying to move someone into the locked room in our house they use for storage, it's not the first time they have moved someone into our house either. I asked him to look into buying a mobile home. Our original plan was to stay put until they passed, but after 8 years, I am ready to live in a home that's mine, one in which I get to enjoy all the rooms. I want my husband to enjoy all the time he has left with his parents, but in the meantime, I need to live somewhere I feel wanted. I feel like I am the jerk for asking him to move now. His parents are telling him I am just being selfish, that I should act more like family. Am I the jerk? Update. I have started working on getting us out of this house with my husband's help. We have been to our first therapy session, and he is seeing the error of his ways. His mom hasn't let up and is throwing every trick in the book at us, but I'm standing my ground. My husband has taken over anything that has to do with his parents or sister. Thank you for the advice, everyone. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You are the breadwinner. You don't need their permission. Leave and take your money and child with you. It's up to the husband if he wants to stay. Comment 2. I think you should actually talk to a lawyer because it's possible if you've been paying the land tax, etc., you can claim ownership of the house. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around after my last post. It's been a hectic 3 days since then, and I've got quite the update for you all. So after our first therapy session, my husband and I were feeling pretty hopeful. He was starting to see how his parents' behavior was affecting our marriage and our family. We were working together, planning our escape to the mobile home on our land, but then things took a turn. 2 days ago, his mom cornered me in the kitchen. She was fuming, saying that I was tearing the family apart. She accused me of manipulating her son and threatened to kick us out. I tried to stay calm, but it was hard. I reminded her that we've been paying the taxes on this place, but she just scoffed and said that didn't mean anything. Later that day, my husband's sister, who's always been a bit of a rough card, came over. She and I have never really gotten along, and she's always sided with her parents. She started yelling at me, saying I was ungrateful and that I should be ashamed for wanting to leave. My husband heard the commotion and came in, trying to defuse the situation. But his sister wasn't having it. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Now, let's rewind a bit to give you some context. Before my husband's accident, he and his sister were close. They used to go on runs together, and she was always at our place, hanging out. But after the accident, she distanced herself. She couldn't handle the change in her brother, and it hurt him a lot. So, seeing her stand up for their parents over us was a low blow. The next day, my husband and I were looking at mobile homes online when his dad called him into the living room. His dad, who's always been the quieter one, had this serious look on his face. He told my husband that he was disappointed in him for not standing up for his family, meaning them, not me and our child. My husband tried to explain our side, but his dad just shook his head and walked away. That night, my husband and I lay in bed, talking about everything. He admitted that he was scared to leave, scared of losing his parents' approval, but he also knew that we couldn't stay in this toxic environment. We decided to push forward with our plans, no matter what. This morning, I woke up to find my husband talking to his mom in the living room. She was crying, saying that she didn't want to lose him. He was comforting her, but he also stood his ground. He told her that we needed to do what was best for our family. She seemed to understand, or so we thought. Later in the day, I overheard her on the phone with someone, saying that I was forcing her son to leave and that I was an evil woman. I was so frustrated. It felt like no matter what we did, we couldn't win with them. But here's the kicker, the misunderstanding that I mentioned at the beginning. My husband came to me this afternoon, looking confused. He said his mom had told him that I had agreed to let his cousin move into the locked storage room. I was shocked. I had never said anything like that. It turns out his mom had overheard me talking to a friend on the phone about how we were planning to move out and had twisted my words to make it seem like I was giving up the room. I confronted her about it, and she broke down, admitting that she had lied. She was trying to keep us there by any means necessary. My husband was furious. He couldn't believe his mom would go to such lengths. I supported my best friend Lee through her wedding, but she skipped my bachelorette party and left my wedding early. Oh boy, she had to attend another wedding. I, 29 years old female, got married recently. I had been planning my wedding for a long time and had 10 bridesmaids because I did not want to leave any of my closest friends or cousins out. I did not want it to be financially draining for anyone, so I bought all their bridesmaids' dresses. One of my childhood best friends, let's call her Leah, was also my bridesmaid. I had changed 3 flights to be there for her wedding, and then returned just the day after, as I was not able to take time off work. But I did all my bridesmaid duties and made sure I was there for her wedding no matter what. But when it came to the time of my wedding, she wasn't getting very involved in the planning, but would leave random messages to me from time to time to show her excitement. I just assumed that she was really busy and did not think much of it. I was a bit shocked and hurt when she did not show up for my bachelorette party. My sister and my maid of honor told me that she had asked each and every one of my bridesmaids about their availability and budget before planning my bachelorette, and Leah had confirmed her presence but dropped out at the last minute, saying she had an important work meeting. I believed her until I found out that she was actually on a cousin's trip on the same date. This really pissed me off, and I confronted her. She never gave a proper explanation and just became really defensive. I left the matter there as I did not want to ruin my wedding and chose to give her the benefit of the doubt. I had a grand music night a day before my wedding. She was there for it, and everything seemed normal. The next day in the morning, when I called all my bridesmaids to my room for the final bridal entry practice, I found out that Leah had already left because she needed to attend another wedding. I was very upset. I was already in the bridal mode, and it really affected my mood. I also had to make some last-minute changes to the bridal entry. Later, when I confronted her after the wedding, she wasn't apologetic at all. She simply told me that she had to also attend her husband's cousin's wedding. And since she was already there for one wedding-related event, it shouldn't be a big deal that she missed my actual wedding, since I would be busy on the day of my wedding and wouldn't have time to interact with anyone. I asked her why she did not tell me earlier. I wouldn't have bought her the bridesmaid dress and wouldn't have planned things keeping her in mind. She said that she did not want to upset me and thought it was best if she left without telling anyone so that she would not be emotionally manipulated into staying. Since then, I have been avoiding her. I had a lot of love for her, but I just feel so betrayed that all the love seems to have evaporated. Some people think that I am being petty and I should just forgive her. So, am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Her actions have shown you that this relationship is very one-sided, so why spend a lot of time trying to maintain it? If you find yourself spending a lot of time thinking about it, it's probably a sign that you should try to talk this through with her, to at least get some kind of closure about it. But if you're already past it, I don't see why you should feel any obligation to mend anything. Comment 2. End the friendship. Not because she didn't attend the wedding, bachelorette, etc., but because of the way she did it. She knew she wasn't going to attend, and she said she would. Because of her absence, you had to change things. Her saying that she just left so you won't emotionally manipulate her into staying is the final straw. Don't avoid her. Actively cut her out of your life. Now, for the update. A lot has happened since my last post about my wedding and the drama with my childhood best friend, Leah. I've been trying to process everything and figure out where to go from here. After the wedding, I was hurt and confused by Leah's actions. I couldn't understand why she'd bail on my big day after I'd gone to such lengths to be there for hers. I thought back to all the times we'd shared, the secrets we'd whispered late into the night during sleepovers, and the promises we'd made to always be there for each other. It felt like a punch to the gut to realize that maybe those moments meant more to me than they did to her. I had been avoiding Leah, but she kept trying to reach out. She sent me messages, left voicemails, and even tried to talk to me through our mutual friends. I heard from my sister that Leah was asking about me, wanting to know how I was doing. It was like she couldn't grasp the gravity of her actions or how deeply she'd hurt me. Then, just a week after the wedding, I got a message from Leah that I couldn't ignore. She said she needed to talk to me in person, that it was urgent. I agreed to meet her, my curiosity getting the better of my resentment. We met at a small cafe we used to frequent together. The moment I saw her, I could tell something was off. She was fidgety, avoiding eye contact, and her usual confident demeanor was nowhere to be seen. Leia finally spilled the beans. She confessed that she had been dealing with a lot more than she had let on. Her marriage was on the rocks, and she was struggling to keep it together. She admitted that she had been jealous of my happiness and upcoming wedding, which made her act out in ways she now regretted. She said she felt trapped in her life and didn't know how to deal with it, so she lashed out at me, the person who was supposed to be her rock. I was shocked. I had no idea she was going through such a tough time. We had always shared everything, but somewhere along the line, we had stopped being each other's confidants. I felt a mix of anger and sympathy. I was still hurt by her actions, but I also felt guilty for not noticing that my friend was in pain. The conversation took another turn when Leah revealed the real reason she had to leave my wedding early. She had found out that her husband was having an affair with one of my other bridesmaids. She had walked in on them the night of my music event. She was so devastated and embarrassed that she couldn't face me or the rest of the bridal party. She thought by leaving quietly, she could spare everyone the drama. My jaw dropped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The betrayal cut even deeper, knowing that it involved another person I had considered a friend. I remembered how odd they had both acted that night, but I had been too wrapped up in my own world to notice. Leigh apologized profusely for not being honest with me from the start. She said she was seeking counseling for herself and trying to figure out what to do about her marriage. She asked for my forgiveness and hoped that we could rebuild our friendship. I was torn. Part of me wanted to scream at her for bringing this mess into my life, for ruining my wedding memories. But another part of me, the part that had grown up with her, that had shared countless memories, wanted to be there for her in her time of need. I told Leah I needed time to think about everything. I wasn't sure if I could forgive her, or the other bridesmaid, or if I even wanted to. The trust that had been broken wasn't something that could be easily repaired. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.